Greetings. My name is Louis Molina, and I'm the host of the Life Puro podcast. Today, I'm joined by Paul Heaton, who's going to help discuss and inform us about the golf world, especially in light of the Masters just occurring. So with that, Paul, thanks for joining me today. Appreciate your time.
No problem at all.
Yeah.
Glad I could be here.
Yeah, no pressure. So, and for those of you who don't know or haven't ever visited our Baton Rouge location, Paul is one of our tobacconists, and we love having him. How many years now have you been working?
I will make 2 this upcoming June.
2, okay.
2 with y'all.
And before that, you were a client of ours. So
yeah, I was a long time Habana Port customer.
Nice. Yeah, and like sometimes we get some of our tobacconists as clients first, and they love the environment so much. So we appreciate you helping us out. You've been a tremendous asset for us.
Oh well, thank you. That means a lot.
Yeah. So what cigar are you cutting and lighting right now?
So I have the Davidoff Colorado Claro. It's one I haven't visited for a long while, and if anyone who comes into the shop or knows me personally, I'm a bit of a fanboy of the brand. I got into smoking Davidoff when I was a newer smoker, so about 6+ years ago. But I would say probably around the 2 years into smoking, I picked them up, and it's been really hard to get away from them since. The quality's good, tobacco is always phenomenal, and the blends are always spot on.
Yeah, and I love it when you talk to clients, explaining to them about Davidoff, since you really know the portfolio rather extensively. You're a fan of the cigar and the company, so it's awesome to hear you just inform our clients and make the pitch to them about trying out Davidoff.
It's a little bit of a difficulty thing with some customers because it is such a high price point cigar, but it is one of those things where you really do get what you pay for. You definitely get your money's worth out of the product. It's the spiels I go on, and I can go on for it. It's really hard to knock them. I haven't had an experience where I have to.
Yeah, you're such a brand ambassador for them. And look, I mean, we get questions all the time, right? In fact, I was talking to a client today. It's a common question with Davidoff. What do you think that question is?
Is it worth it?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. That's what he asked. So how do you respond to that? Because I'll give you my pitch, and I'm sure it's the same.
So when it comes to how I respond to people asking, is it worth it? With cigars and many similar hobbies, it's an investment in time. It's one of the few things that I've experienced in my short time on this earth so far, that smoking a cigar or having a drink or just reading a book or something like that, it's one of the very few things you can actually just invest in your own time without worrying that other things are going to keep you sidetracked. It's when you light up a cigar, it's something that you are committing to. So it's going to be, whether it be a short cigar like an Exquisito or a cigarillo that's just quick, 5-10 minutes maybe max, all the way up to your Doble Coronas, Churchill length, 2-hour time sync cigars. It's going to be a dedicated period of time where you're focusing on either yourself, the cigar, or just the world around you in your own little bubble. Yeah. So I don't want to say it's how you value your time, because everyone values time differently, but it's what are you wanting to put into your time and what do you want to get back out? So the cigar market nowadays is incredibly full, especially with New Worlds. Yeah. Or tobacco that's not grown in Cuba. It's insane just the range of options we had. Because I remember when I first started, there were like 3 or 4 big companies, and then a few smaller ones, boutique brands that you'd see, but you never really reached out to unless you were really into the hobby. And now there's 7, 8, 9, 10 big manufacturers, and then got close to 30 different brands that are in our store alone, with however many SKUs. So it's just, there's so many options. It's just, what do you want to sink your time into? And I personally, I value my time, especially when I'm off and I'm not either doing schoolwork or I'm not working and I'm not dealing with other things. I want my time to be very focused on what I'm doing. So spending that extra bit of money to guarantee that I don't have to worry about anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that really matters to me. So it's the brand I usually reach to.
Yeah. And yeah, no, I mean, that's definitely a good way to look at it. The way I also will explain to people is that the mark of any great company is how consistent they are, right? You even if you don't like, say, a Fuente or a Padron or Davidoff, at least you know that they're going to smoke a certain way, a consistent way. And whether you like it or not, that's up to the individual. So the same thing applies with Davidoff, I found. Like, there's some people who don't like that profile, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But one can't take away the quality that Davidoff implements in the creation of all their cigars and product. And they live up to that image.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I've had the fortune to visit their factory and see their operation. And it just, even with me having visited dozens of other factories before that, I was very impressed with their operation and really can understand why they price their cigars at that price point. Of course, people will say, "Oh, well, you're biased. You're an appointed merchant," but like, we wanted to get that appointed merchant status because we believed in that brand. So
busted your behind to keep it, get it,
Yeah.
maintain it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So just like any other company, as I've said, I mean, one might not like a particular company or philosophy of a particular blend or any manufacturer blender, but one can definitely say and can't take away from Davidoff's commitment to quality and just the way they execute. So, I mean, that's what I tell people, and I think everyone should try Davidoff at least once.
Oh, yeah.
See what it's about, you know?
And it's not just trying particularly Davidoff, just giving a company a shot or giving a different cigar, a new cigar. It's always probably the most crucial thing with cigars because you don't really want to pigeonhole yourself with one specific thing because if you get one bad one for that specific thing that you've always smoked, because it's a handmade product, there are going to be some variations. Yes, they get as close as humanly possible to keeping it the same, but there's always going to be variations from batch to batch, SKU to SKU, Vitola to Vitola. It's size. Yeah, size does sometimes matter.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's just something to try and get people to try a little bit more, just experience it. If you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, we move on, try something else.
Yeah, exactly. Bottom line. So you have the Colorado Claro. What do you know about that particular line? Because I remember when it used to be like an annual release, just a one-time release throughout the year, and I think now it's available all year round.
Yeah, I want to say they made it a main line, but that was recently because it was gone for a very long time. There was only whatever was left, and it's a little more of an obscure batch, I would say, or line compared to the rest of Davidoff's portfolio, at least to me. It's not something you usually see people reaching for, like unless they really enjoy the profile on it. I find it to be a stepping stone sort of between the Millennium and the Anniversario. Because with the white band line or the core line of Davidoff, you get the signature Grand Cru, Anniversario, and Millennium.
Yep.
3 very mild options, and then the fourth one steps up fairly straight or fairly aggressive, I should say. That's not to say the Millennium is aggressive. It's just when you're comparing the strength from super mild to mild and then going over to medium plus, slightly fuller, it's a bit of a jump. So I always thought this was a more in between them.
Yeah.
That Claro wrapper gets its name, I want to say, because of the red hue of that specific leaf.
Yeah, the Colorado Claro.
I find it gives a little more leather forward, pairs great with coffee. It's probably one of the better medium-ish.
Yeah.
I want to say, so I rate cigars 1 through 5 on strength. It's probably it's what I was taught.
It's just a good way. Yeah,
it's what I was taught when I was a customer here. That's how they rated them on strength. So it's a solid 2.5, almost 3. So it's slightly fuller than mild, but it's really nice leather, a little bit of earth, a little bit of hay, which is classic through Davidoff's line, is that creamy hay note, or at least to me, because all palates are different. But it's just a really good medium, subtle note, not overpowering, not over peppery, which sometimes Dominican cigars do get, at least to me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think kind of like you were describing that line, I feel it's definitely a good segue from the Davidoff smoker who likes the core series or the white label. I think they're now going back to the white label distinction or white band. That meaning the Grand Cru, like you said, Signature and Anniversario. That would definitely be a step up from those and somewhere in between those and the Millennium. And then just to kind of round out the rest of the portfolio of Davidoff, at least the core items, the other ones are what? The Discover. I think they call it the Discovery series.
Yeah, the Black Band line or the Discovery series.
Yeah.
You got your Yamasa, which is a Dominican growing region, a little bit spicier. I view it as a little bit stronger than medium, but if you are very susceptible to spice, it can be full strength all out because it is a lot. At least
it's definitely more spicy. Huh?
It is. It definitely nails that quintessential Dominican spice. Next, you got the Escurio, which is using Brazilian tobaccos through it. More earthy, a little. I don't want to call it decadent or rich, but it's more of a fuller strength, or not fuller strength, fuller bodied. Compared to the rest of the line, just because it is super dense in its flavor profile. It's like really rich earth, almost like potting soil, has that really nice rich smell to it.
Yeah.
The Escurio kind of nails that. And then subtle undertones of pepper, but not overwhelming. A little bit more. I start to get dark coffee notes, but it's kind of like, it's not when it's brewed, but when you're smelling dark roast beans, kind of that little subtle sweet but bitter. And then the Nicaraguan, which is my personal favorite from the Discovery line. I get like rich molasses, almost like caramel notes.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
It's one of my all-time favorite, especially pairing cigars. I absolutely adore that cigar with rum.
Okay.
Like a dark aged rum, fantastic.
Okay.
And then rounding off the outside lines with the Winston Churchill lines. Absolutely fantastic. They're on the stronger side of Davidoff, especially for a company that does not do a lot of full strength. It's the closest they get, at least in my mind. So you got the core Winston Churchill line, really nice, subtle cedar notes, a little more leather forward. Pepper definitely shines. And then the late hour.
Yeah. That's probably the best seller.
If anyone in this, my coworkers, regular customers have ever heard me go off on a tangent about a company, or a specific cigar, it's the late hour. It was one of the first Davidoffs that I really got into when it came out. Aged, I want to say they finished the binder or wrapper in Scotch barrels, but I'm blanking and it's killing me now. But it's got an oaky note that has like a subtle sweetness to it, but not overwhelmingly. And then cedar, leather, and a little bit of nuttiness rounds it out. And then when paired with it has to be lower proof, at least from what I've tried. It doesn't really take well to high proof or cask strength bourbons that we see nowadays. But a classic Scotch that's sitting around that 90 to 95 proof.
Okay.
Unbelievable. It's really hard to beat.
And I love also hearing you whenever we have clients come in asking about pairing cigars with a spirit. I usually relegate them to you, since you're very knowledgeable with like bourbon, especially.
I went down the rabbit hole really hard when I hit 21. It was I wanted to find another hobby outside of cigars, so I went down the rabbit hole for bourbon and whiskeys pretty aggressively. But it was always something fun. It took cigars to the next level to me. Not that I needed spirit to smoke a cigar, but it was always like a puzzle. So you're playing around because you only get so many shots within one cigar to try a spirit to see if the pairing works, just because of the finishes and how the cigar changes in its thirds and how spirit oxidizes. You get a very brief window until you find what you're looking for. So it's always something fun to play around with because you can smoke a cigar and pair it with something that should pair well, and it can be completely off base, which is always something interesting.
Yeah.
And then I usually pair opposites, so I find the opposite profile in the cigar, and I try and find the profile on the cigar first, just because it's usually a little easier, at least, to find a general guesstimate on it, than try and guess what a spirit is going to do, because once a liquor or once a mash is in the barrel, it can change regardless. So it's always something fun to try and find an opposite pairing. So like this one, slightly spicier. It's like pairing, I would imagine, is rye, or at least a rum. I'd probably go with bourbon with this one, just because bourbon has that sweeter note to it.
Okay.
So just trying I would say around 95 to bottle and bond or 100 proof strength, just to kind of guess around with it. Maybe stick with more Kentucky, or just because they kind of have more of a sweet corn note.
Okay. So what specific brand would you then
when it goes
mention?
When it goes to that, since
like in light of what you described, that you think that would pair well with? Like what brand, if I'm just kind of a novice walking the liquor store aisle?
So it sounds, if you're in the bourbon world, it's really hard to get away from Buffalo Trace.
Okay.
So I would say just the standard Buffalo Trace would be probably a great pairing with it.
Okay.
You can, if you drink whiskey with a rock, or if you mix it, it's usually very easy to approach. And then it has that really nice sweeter note to it, a little less oak than you'd find in some cast strengths, because it has been proofed down. So just core classic Buffalo Trace, or something along those lines. Just a little bit subtle sweetness, not too much going on, because you don't want to overwhelm the cigar, because Davidoff is an incredibly delicate cigar to me.
Yeah.
Like the tobacco in it is incredibly subtle with its flavor note, so you don't want to lose all of it and just find a basic note. So it's just fun to kind of dink around with, have a little fun with.
So what you're saying is, in light of that, with the pairing a Davidoff, especially the Colorado Claro, you might not recommend some bourbon that's, like you said, cast strength or high proof even.
Yeah. So I really don't venture, and it's hard for me to say because I genuinely do love high proof bourbon. I find you get more out of it as a singular item.
Okay. Because
there's so much that can potentially be masked by proofing down that you lose because the oils are diluted. So it's fun to play around with. But when you do drink cast strength, the finish tends to be much longer because the oils in the whiskey are just coating your palate.
So you feel it longer on the palate.
Oh yeah, it's like viscous. Like
it just sticks. Yeah,
you can feel it just thoroughly coating both the front of your tongue and the back all the way down. You can feel it, and then when you try and smoke a cigar with it, if the finish is so long from the whiskey, sometimes it doesn't even go away. Like if it's a finished whiskey, sometimes that finish just sticks with you forever.
Okay.
Or, well, forever. But it just
longer than like an average.
Longer than you normally would see.
Okay.
And it makes it a little harder to pair with because it's just the tobacco is not going to be able to coat the tongue, or the smoke is not going to be able to coat the tongue as thoroughly, just because there's already something there taking it all
it's
up.
Like a barrier, huh?
Yeah, it's just so thoroughly coated, you just sometimes miss out on a lot.
Okay.
So it's one of those games where you kind of have to balance. Sometimes water can help.
Okay.
A few drops of water in whiskey can lighten it up and kind of release some of those oils. Sometimes it will shorten the finish, make it a little more pairable. Sometimes it doesn't. But it just depends on, again, all palates are subjective. Mm-hmm. So it just depends on the individual. If you know that whiskey sticks to you a little bit more, maybe put a rock in it or an ice cube and just kind of see if it dilutes down so you can pair a little more, or just experiment around with it. It's kind of the fun thing, is everyone is unique with it.
Mm-hmm. And you brought up an interesting point I've never even thought about, in that when pairing a cigar and an alcohol, a spirit in this situation, both items are really dynamic. And you brought up something that I never really thought about, in that, like the cigar, as you're smoking the cigar during the session, it might change up on you. Mm-hmm. And then you're trying to compete with that. You're talking about windows, right? Small windows. As the spirit sits out there in the open air, it's oxidizing. So that'll kind of maybe change the profile a little bit. So when you sip or smoke, whatever order you do, it might be a different experience in the first third of that session versus the middle third versus the end.
Oh yeah, no.
So that's to me that's kind of cool.
Oh no, that's what. Like I said, I kind of nerd out a lot, and as I said before, if you've ever been in the store and you caught me mid tangent, because I do go on some long-winded rants about just pairings, or just topics like this, I kind of nerd out a little bit, and I'm not the most knowledgeable person. I definitely prefer the title amateur enthusiast. I like it, but I'm not. I'm by no means an expert. I've listened to a lot of people. I've tried a good amount that I just like to share a little bit more, but it's all individual.
Well, but it's impressive. Like even you say you consider yourself an amateur enthusiast, you've picked up a lot more, like considering your age, than even like people my age that really haven't, dive deep into it. So it's pretty cool that the knowledge base that you've already built up.
I want to say I was so desperate to find my niche that I could just kind of have to myself, whether or not I shared it or not. It was just something that I could center myself with, and it kind of take me away from the rest of the stresses of the world, whatever they may be.
Yeah. And I think that'd be a good segue into the next topic. And I've been wanting to bring you on the show for a while now, and I think it's appropriate. Given that the Masters just occurred. So you're a big golf enthusiast.
I am. I played most of my life. I've taken a few years off recently, but golf was a very, very big part of my life growing up. My dad was a Class A pro. Still is a Class A pro, I should say. So it's always been there with me. My grandfather played. My great-grandfather before he played. Yeah. It's been a generational thing, and then most of my family plays or has played at some point.
Yeah.
So it was just something that came, or that I don't want to say I was forced into it, because my dad really didn't. He was very hands off about it because he didn't want me to burn out on it too quickly. Yeah. So he just I was kind of guided to it, and then I took to it and just went running with it from there. Yeah. So it was just something fun.
And it's just, it's a perfect sport for listeners who maybe don't know golf or have never tried it. Just the dynamic, just the characteristics of that sport really pair well with a cigar or even a spirit afterwards, maybe. So it's really all these three kind of topics really intersect and mesh well.
They do, because it's like I was talking about earlier, it's an investment in time. Round of golf at bare minimum is like 3.5 hours if you're playing 18 holes, if you're playing quick.
And if that's on a cart?
That's in a cart. That's playing quick like lightning. You can get under that if you're really, really going, or you know what you're doing, you can get under that. But 3.5, 4 hours is about the mean time for a round of golf for 18 holes. Yeah, I've seen rounds go all the way up to like 8 hours. There's been some insane times. It was just...
Why is that?
Combination of larger groups. So most courses stick to around 4 is the max. 5 if you ask, and 6 is almost out of the question outside of tournaments. Just because it is a constantly moving situation where the course has to flow, or else it just grinds to a halt and no one's having fun.
Yeah, you have the bottlenecks and all.
And it's never that fun when everyone just kind of comes together and just, you can't keep playing, and it throws you out of rhythm.
That's always been my issue, since I'm not any good by any stretch of the imagination. And unfortunately, I might only play a round like once or twice a year. But so I know like my skill level is like very, very low. And I'm the type that, even in a cart, if there's like a group behind me, I'm just going to let them play through. Like I'm not going to slow down their play, because it's just an etiquette thing. And that's, to me, I like that concept of golf is like, there's a lot of etiquette. Some people might think it's kind of stuffy or stuffed up, but I kind of like that approach, especially in a sport. There's codes of conduct, there's respect for the game, respect for others. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing.
It's the gentleman's game, which I do not want to take away from ladies. That was just the old nickname for it. It was the gentleman's game, but it's more just, golf is incredibly etiquette driven, rule driven. I think the rule book has doubled since the time I no longer played. There's been so many variations in a constantly evolving game.
Whoa, I didn't realize that.
Like I remember when I was in the middle of my golf career, it was, just as a very specific example, you used to always have to pull the pin out. Like you could not leave the pin in the hole, or else it was a 2-shot penalty if you hit it So nowadays, it was inspired or it was brought forth by tour players. I can't remember the exact one, but it was brought forth to speed up play was to leave the pin in.
And what do you mean the pin? What
So
is
like
that?
the flag stick. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
the flag stick used to always have to be pulled. Like
Oh,
it could
yeah.
not stay in the cup. So professional the cat would get it. Amateur, whoever is closest would grab it once everyone's on the green.
Okay.
So it was just one of those things that you just always pulled it. Now you don't have to.
Really?
So the game evolves constantly, and some purists or classics don't like it too much because it's taking away from some of the methodology to the game. So it used to, everyone knew it, as you played, you picked up what was common and what was not. So it's just changing.
Okay.
And it's been something to witness because, like I said, when I played, God, I'm not that old. But it was so long ago since I played competitively that it was just, it seems like a world apart. Like I feel like now that older generation that looks back at rules changing, it's like that's not how it used to be.
Oh, wow.
So it's been something to watch, something to witness. It's been fun. It's been interesting, definitely, just to see the game that I played grow and evolve.
Yeah. So I had no clue about that one facet of the rule book in that now they leave that flag or pin. I didn't even see it. That shows you how little I know about the golf game. So I'm going to ask you like really rookie questions. So now it just stays there.
It can be pulled.
Oh, okay.
But it no longer has to be.
Okay.
You can't have it as like an obstruction. Like if you pull it, it has to be moved off the green and it can't be touched by a ball.
Okay.
Until the hole is over, unless somebody wants it back in.
Okay.
But with it in, you no longer have to worry about if you touch it on accident. It's no longer penalty, or at least I haven't read the rule book, so nobody get mad at me.
Yeah, don't quote you.
But it's no longer viewed as a hard obstruction that you're using to an advantage. It's now part of the course and can be played on.
Okay.
Because like that was only with putting that it had to be removed. If you chipped in from off the green and it was in, it was fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
But it was putting, it was viewed as something that had to be removed and could not be used. Because it was always one of those things. It was viewed as like your equipment. So you just had to remove it from the situation.
Okay. Because are there scenarios where it could be an advantage to leave that pin in or not?
So the one that comes to, I personally will probably never view it as an advantage because it's taking away part of the hole. I mean, it's 3.5 inch wide hole and you got 1.25 inch ball, not very much, or 1.5 inch. It's one of those two, but it's a very small gap you're trying to get this ball into. And then you got the pin, which isn't that wide, but it sits dead in the middle. And so if the ball hits it just right, it can just bounce straight out and it doesn't count. So it's one of those things where it's just, I view it as an obstruction no matter what. Some people view it as an advantage, like on a downhill putt, you could use it as a backstop of sorts.
Okay, yeah.
Or
Because sometimes there might be scenarios where it would have rolled over.
Yeah,
that hole.
And then sometimes it catches the pin just right and tucks it in. It's an interesting facet.
Yeah,
but it's just one minor detail of the overall game, or as my dad would call it, gamesmanship, where you're trying to game the course because the course is inert. You as the player have to move and maneuver yourself to the course. Like if we're there's very few courses where it seems like the course always changes, and this will broach into the Masters. There's very few courses on earth that are viewed as like sacred sites in golf. St. Andrews, the old course, is probably the most prominent.
Okay.
It's the home of golf. It's the origin. Pebble Beach, synonymous with the pros. Beautiful, brilliant piece of golf architecture, just absolutely gorgeous. Then my personal favorite, it's the mythos of the course is insane, is Augusta National, or where the Masters is played. There's a mythos to that course where just everything about it is something to behold. Like it's never the same, but it is. It's the one course, or it's the one tournament where the course changes or never changes. The Masters is always at Augusta National. So you see pros play this over and over and over and over again if they qualify, but they never are shooting the same or constantly getting better scores necessarily. It's something interesting because the course can change overnight. There's there's a story my dad always told me, and it stuck with me, and I can't remember the exact player, and I can be fact checked on this, but when people off the tee start getting super long and we're clipping corners to try and get an advantage on the course, a tree appeared overnight, full-grown pine tree, just appeared overnight right in the way of this corner, so it was no longer able to be cut. So it's just Augusta National is the forever evolving constant.
I see.
Because like the course, as soon as the Masters is over, I think the members get like 3 months. And this is a very exclusive membership, but they only get like 3 months after the Masters to play.
Whoa.
And then the course is plowed under except for the fairways. So it's just completely fresh by the time the next Masters comes out. The only things not messed with are like the flora around it and the greens. The greens have like a heating system under it. So the greens are regulated throughout the off season, and the fairways are regrowing, and then the natural flora and fauna develops as it will over time. But like they'll freeze blossoms on the course, so that way when the Masters rolls around, the course is blooming perfectly.
Whoa!
It's the mythos of that. I absolutely adore that course. Like this is another one. If you've ever heard a rant about me with Augusta, I love everything about that course. Like a bucket list item for me is not to play, just to walk onto that course and just kind of feel it.
I was going to ask, have you ever attended as a spectator?
I have not. My father and my grandfather have. My dad, being a Class A, gets his one ticket. And my grandfather, retired politician, tickets happen.
Yeah, yeah.
So he went with my dad. He went with a few people, but it's one of those things where I really want to go.
Yeah. And I hear so many, I guess I hear it more often in our world, in the cigar shop world, right? It's the same kind of demographic of people just wanting to attend as a spectator. Mm-hmm. And I hear that, people try to go there. They've tried for years. How does that work? Like if, let's say me, just a bum off the street, want to try to attend, how do I approach that? Is there a lottery system or what? The
Masters for general admission does work on a lottery system. I'm sure there's older tickets that are like guaranteed to certain people, and
I'm sure like club members get access, right?
Those kinds of things. Then there is a secondary market for tickets. Some people will sell their tickets, but it's going to be through
taboo?
I personally can't understand it. Like if I got my ticket and unless somebody was dying, I will be there. Like I will drop everything to go watch that tournament for however many rounds I have tickets to.
Yeah.
I will drop everything and I will walk my way there if I have to.
And let's rewind a bit. So does the Masters, does that represent like the first tournament of the season or early on? Like it seems like
it's the first major.
Okay.
So of the 4 majors, the Masters, the Open, the British Open, and the US Open, and then the PGA Championship to round out the season.
Okay.
The Masters is the opening. I don't want to say it's technically or it's viewed as like the beginning of the golf season because it's not. It's just the first major.
Okay.
Because after the Masters, we're gonna get a month, maybe 2, and then we have the Open, and then we have the U.S. Open. Actually, no, U.S. Oh, because I know the U.S.
The order
Open,
of the majors.
I want to say it's Masters, U.S. Open, and then PGA, because I know the Open. Oh no, not the Open. The U.S. Open falls around Father's Day. I want to say that, and because I want to say the British Open, or the Open, is the first week of July or around there.
At least this year, the Masters, April 8th through 14th. The PGA Championship, May 13th through 19th at Valhalla Golf Club in Louisville, Kentucky.
So it alternated now.
The U.S. Open, June 10th through the 16th at Pinehurst. Mm-hmm. And the British Open, July 15 to 21 at Royal Troon in South Ayrshire. And I'm sure mispronouncing it. South Ayrshire, Scotland.
Okay. Yeah, because the PGA Championship used to be later in the season because that was the end.
Okay.
Because I want to say it was the end of the FedEx Cup, which was like a season-long thing. So you build up points as the season went in the FedEx Cup, and then the winner at the end, who usually won either the PGA or whatever was the insurmountable, they won the pot or the big that was the big money thing in the PGA Tour for the longest time.
Was the PGA Championship?
Was the FedEx Cup.
Oh, okay.
That was the big money. It wasn't. I mean, individual pots are huge, and the winner does take a huge amount. But the FedEx Cup was the big pot. Like that was the over the season pot.
Oh, okay.
So, or at least it used to be.
Yeah.
Like I said, I took a few years away from the game, so
they could have changed.
I think everything could be changed. I know the game has changed with the introduction of the LIV tour.
I was going to ask you about that. I know it's kind of touchy, but just to sum it up for a person who doesn't know golf, like what happened with that?
So the LIV it was Greg Norman's brainchild. I want to say, I could be wrong. I say it's Greg Norman's brainchild because he always wanted a world tour. So that way he didn't have to play in the U.S. so long because he's from Australia.
Okay.
So he didn't want to be constantly in the U.S. when it's so far away from home. He wanted a worldwide tour. And while the PGA does have a lot of events outside of the U.S., it's mainly focused on the U.S.
Okay.
Because while golf was founded in the United Kingdom, I would say the home of golf now is the U.S.
Yeah.
And I do say that with some relative confidence. Like
not just a bias, but like
I would say that with relative confidence, the U.S. is the home of golf right now. It's probably the most popular in the U.S. No, Asia's gone on really big right now. Like it's very big in the Asian market, but it's for the longest time golf. If you wanted to see the best in the world, it was usually U.S. players. Tiger for so long, Jack, Arnold, Sam Snead, those kind of players. It was
all U.S.
It was all U.S. and they took the game and moved it forward. So it was one of those things. But he wanted the worldwide tour. So there were a few world tours like the World Golf Championships. You'd see them like once. I think there were 4 total, but 2 were in the U.S. 1 was in Mexico, and I want to say 1 was in Europe, or 1 was elsewhere. But I remember the Mexico one constantly in my head, and then the 2 U.S. ones.
Okay.
So he wanted a worldwide tour. Saudi Arabia, they've been funding a lot of new up and coming things. Like look at what is it? It's not just soccer.
Yeah, I was gonna say soccer. Yeah,
or football. Whatever you want to call it. I'm gonna call it soccer because that's how I grew up on.
Yeah.
They have the Saudi League now, and it's some of the best players in the world being recruited over there. And then same with golf. They wanted into the golf market. Norman had the idea, and then they funded it, and then they were just pulling top players because they had the funding to do it.
Yeah.
And
all that oil money, huh? Now they got to reinvest it.
Exactly. My whole thing was it wasn't. I've said I never cared that players were going to go to a different tour because there were always different tours. There was a European tour, PGA tour. It was the fact that they kept trying to say it was going to be bigger than the PGA tour when I just can't see it personally.
That'd be like the MLS coming in saying that we're going to be bigger than the Premier League or La Liga. Like, yeah, they could
just because they have the money to do it. That's my whole.
But
like you're looking at,
you can't take away from tradition or just that branding. You know, so is that a fair analogy to equate with like LIV?
I believe so.
Yeah,
like
I mean, you can't have like LIV doesn't have the Masters. Are they going to recreate the Masters? They could, but like,
they could try. But the Masters is 88 tournaments in. That's an old tournament. I mean, the Open was 150. They celebrated 150th past COVID in 21. So it was supposed to be in 2020. COVID hit. World changed, and then 2021 is when the 150th Open happened.
Okay.
So these are old tournaments that have now become synonymous with the tour, even though some of them aren't even run by it. The U.S. Open isn't run by the PGA Tour. It's run by the USGA.
Oh, what?
Yeah. So they put on the tournament. The PGA is a contributor in the Masters, but it's put on by Augusta National. The PGA Championship is sole PGA. Okay. And then the
U.S. Open?
The U.S. Open is USGA.
USGA,
yep.
Okay.
So United States Golf Association runs that. The Open, just for reference, the Open is the British Open.
Is it, a.k.a. British Open.
It's just the
They just call it the Open? I didn't know that.
It is earned that title as the Open because it was one of the first tournaments to allow both amateur and professional, so the Open.
Okay.
It's the Open Golf Tournament. You just have to qualify.
Okay.
But it's one of those things where the LIV has all the right tools. They have the star power, they have the funding, and the courses are there. It's just you're going against. I don't want to say David and Goliath because I don't like the LIV personally.
Yeah.
But it is kind of that situation. You see a juggernaut and then an upstart. And
that's quite a powerful David, though.
Yeah, that's a very financially backed David.
Yeah.
But it's one of those interesting aspects of the game, and I don't like the LIV. I've
heard you voice your discontent.
As a completely personal opinion.
Yeah,
does not reflect upon any official outlook.
Yeah.
I thought the LIV. I thought they were just trying to just disrupt everything. And while a little bit of disruption is good, it causes the game to grow. And there have been more eyes on golf in the past 5 years than there have been in a long time.
Even post Tiger Woods?
Yeah,
I
agree.
He's kind of lost relevance, hasn't he? I don't know.
In a way, he has, but his name still carries the same weight. Maybe not the same fear that it used to be, because it used to be Tiger's here, who's taken second.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Because from as soon as he hit the ground running, he changed golf entirely. Because it used to be kind of a boys' club, or a gentleman's club. Mm-hmm. No strippers.
Yeah.
But it was one of those
in the classical sense.
It was a party scene almost for these guys. They didn't put in this almost cerebral level of practice to the game. It was just show up, play, party, and drink afterwards. Show up, do it again, rinse and repeat. And then I say Tiger did it. There was Bobby Jones was one of the other ones I think influenced it slightly because he was the great amateur. Bobby Jones was not a professional, but he won a dang lot.
Oh, wow.
But he was
he's a mythical figure in golf.
He is the mythical amateur.
Okay.
So he was a non-professional, did not take tournament winnings, and just played for the love of the game.
Oh, wow.
So I would say he influenced. He still influences. Bobby Jones' story is phenomenal. I absolutely love it, and it was one of those things that it was. If you weren't on the track to be professional, you could still play, because amateur status doesn't mean a bad thing. It just means you're not paid. So
and explain that to me a little bit. Let's say I want to get into golf. Like, what does it take? And what does it take to, I guess, be classified as an amateur?
So amateur is anyone who plays the game. If you play the game, you're an amateur. If you're getting paid money to do it, you're a professional.
Okay.
So in today's golf terms, there are a few types of professionals. There's tour pros, PGA Tour. There's Class A and there's a few classes in the PGA, but that's separate from the tour.
And so your father is that Class A?
My dad is a member of the Professional Golf Association of America.
Okay.
So the PGA of America is what my dad is a member of. He's a Class A card holding member. He's a head pro at a golf course. He is a professional, and he gets paid to be a professional, but he does not play on tour.
Okay.
Tour pros are tour pros. Some of them are Class A members. Some make the jump, but it's a whole separate entity. So the PGA Tour and the PGA of America are two separate entities that come together.
Okay.
So it's one of those things, but in just very simple terms, amateurs don't get paid to play. They may take winnings in like shop credit or things like that. I don't know. Some people, I know of some places where they pay out cash. I'm not going to say where, but it is a thing. But professional, you are paid to play. Amateurs, you're just playing the game.
And to make a living, you got to obviously place in the money in these tournaments that they have weekly in the PGA typically.
Mm-hmm. I want to say pay starts at cut. You have to make the cut to get paid.
Oh, okay.
And then it scales according to where you finish.
Okay.
So and then to actively maintain a PGA Tour card, you have to win. You have to make money to keep your card.
Okay.
Because that's usually how it is. Your tour card is almost kind of bought. You have to stay within the top 250 in the world, money earning wise, to maintain your tour card.
Ooh.
Or win a big tournament, usually you get exempt. Like I know if you win the U.S. Open, you get exempt tour status and you can play on tour. If you win the Masters, you get exempt, but usually you have to win something else to get into the Masters.
Oh.
So the U.S. Open and the Open are like the two amateur paths to the tour.
Okay.
Because as an amateur, you can qualify for the Open and the British Open without winning an amateur championship. Like the USAM, if you win the USAM, I believe you get exemption into the majors. And then, but you have to keep winning to keep your spot, or go pro and then earn your spot.
Okay.
So it's one of those things. My dad knows way more about this because it's his livelihood. This is regurgitated secondhand knowledge that I've just listened and overheard.
And I'm sure it's knowledge that not everyone knows who just watches golf.
Yeah, there's
just so much that goes on.
Yeah, there's a lot behind the scenes that you don't see on tour. Because on tour, or on TV, when you see the tour players, you see the same names over and over again. You don't really pay attention to that bottom of the field unless you're specifically following that golfer.
Oh, I see.
And I will say, in favor of the LIV, because they did do a good job, everyone's paid. Regardless, you're paid. That is one of those things. You're paid no matter what. So it's a little more financially stable, but you got to be good enough to get recognition.
Yeah.
It's still, the tour is the path. If you want to be a professional golfer, the tour is still the path, I say.
Yeah.
And then there's amateur tours like it used to be called the Web.com tour, and then it went to the Corn Ferry tour, and then there's a few more of those kind of tours. Those are like paths to the PGA tour.
Okay.
So you win those, you get exemption, you get to play, and you get your card.
So give me some of the bullet points of what happened during this year's Masters. Just occurred this past weekend.
So
I saw a little bit of Saturday, some of the play. There was I guess he's a European. I don't know if he's Scandinavian of some sort that was up there. Then I think his name started with an S Scar. No. Anyway.
Is it Orbeck?
No.
No.
There was someone else.
Oh.
And then I think near the end of the day, he just kind of dropped off. And that I just saw like a few minutes of it. I just didn't have time to watch it. They had like the leader board.
Yeah, there was a lot of jockeying around in this Masters. I personally loved it.
Okay.
First of all, congratulations to Scotty. Absolutely put on God, that's ironic. A master class on how to navigate Augusta National.
Was it close or was there a big gap? How did it end?
Going into the final round, it was close. I want to say you had 6 or so people within 2 or 3 shots of the lead.
Wow.
And then it got even closer. You had 3 people tied for first, I believe, at one point. And then the back 9 happened, and Scotty pulled away and stayed consistent, and some people fell. This was probably the windiest Masters I've seen in a long time, so a lot more natural elements. I mean, the first day got rain delayed, so you're seeing a completely different course on that first day. But
they start on a Thursday, right?
Start on Thursday, play till Sunday.
Okay.
So 4 rounds. Friday is cut day.
Okay.
Which I believe is top 50. Because I want to say the field is 150. It could be. It's 10. It's the cut is 10. So the cut is where you see almost the field halved.
Oh, okay.
So, but it's 10. So 10 shots. So the lead I want to say was 6 under at the cut. I could be horribly mistaken. But so plus 6 or plus 4.
Oh, I see.
Plus 4.
That's
plus 4 was the cut line.
Okay.
So you see, if 6 under was the leader, you have 5 under, 4 under, 3 under, 2 under, 1 under, even, 1 over, 2 over, 3 over, 4 over. And everyone who shot between that made the cut. The cut can be adjusted depending on how many players, because if the whole field's only 10 shots off the lead, there's still got to be a cut because you can't keep that many people on the course. It's just with how late the tee times get and how the course navigates, you got to cut the field.
And the leaders, like, let's say on a Sunday, they get later in the day, right? Tee time?
They're going off around like 1:30 local time to
accommodate. Is that TV or is it just an advantage waking up later?
Just
or whatever?
a bit of an advantage because you get a little bit of longer resting period. You get to warm up a little longer, really sharpen yourself. I say there is an advantage. Some people say they prefer to play first because they see the course without any damage done to it.
Oh, okay.
Because that is a disadvantage for the leaders. The course is changed over time.
A little rougher, I guess.
So a little more battle scarred, a little bit drier, so the greens get firmer as the day goes. So like in the morning, especially in the south, the greens are very, very soft, just because of the overall moisture in the air, the dew, things like that. So things hold a little bit better. So you're not seeing the ball run off the green as often. You're not seeing these hard bounces. You're seeing more shots hold what they're intended to do. So there's it's like I said, gamesmanship.
Yeah.
You got to be able to play the course as the course shows itself. So it's one of those things. So I won't lie. I didn't get to watch as closely as I want to this year as I did other years, just because of other things I had going on in life. But I did watch. I got back in town Sunday, and I was able to sit down and actually dive in. I caught just after Scheffler had birdied on 9, kind of set in motion, I say, his path to victory, because everyone else I think there was a shift in the course, just the energy, because Scheffler wasn't slowing down. He was starting to build momentum, and it just it builds an air in the tournament, especially with so many spectators. You start seeing spectators flock to one group, leave a group, and you start hearing louder and louder roars as things happen. It creates a mental warfare, if you will, for these other players who don't know what exactly is going on until they see a scoreboard. And Augusta uses manual scoreboards, so sometimes they're there when things happen, but they don't get to see a score change until a few holes later, unless their caddy is told or their caddy sees. So,
I didn't realize that.
So sometimes some players won't even know a lead has changed until they get to another scoreboard or they're told by their caddy. Some players don't want to know.
Yeah.
Like that was one of the big.
Yeah, that could affect your mental.
Oh yeah, no,
outlook, right?
it can throw you off, and especially if you're not in the lead, like if you're hunting or chasing the lead, and you see it happen where the leader keeps growing, you're gonna have to start playing aggressive because you only have so many holes left. I mean, it's especially on the final round. That is it. You have to go lights out or try to. So you change the game from what you set out to do and your rhythm. However you were playing, it has to now change. So that was one of the big things that they were really talking about in the final round was Scotty didn't look up at the scoreboard almost at all. Like they had a on-course reporter with him the entire round, and she was watching him like a hawk, and he did not look up like at the scoreboard. Like there was a clip shown where he was reading a putt, and the scoreboard is literally right behind him.
And he didn't want to look at it. Huh?
And she said he didn't even move his head up. He just kept looking at his putt, walked around the green, did his thing, went up. I want to say he birdied the hole, and then just walked off. Dame looked around, waved to the spectators as they do, then just completely walked away, did not even glance at it. His caddy knows, but...
Right. He doesn't want to influence...
No, caddies, unless they're asked...
Okay.
Keep everything they can not related to that player's round or that player's specific game. They keep it away. They're like a buffer. Mm-hmm. So that's another aspect that's really fun. You see these experienced caddies really kind of jockey these players through the course. Mm. Like a caddy makes all the difference, at least in my mind. Like you see these, like Tiger when he had his caddy for the longest time, and I'm drawing a split.
Not Butch, huh? Or that was
that was his coach.
Oh, okay.
Butch Harmon was his coach. It was
I remember that. I know his name.
I know his name. Yeah. He had white hair.
Uh-huh.
He always had his caddy uniform like buttoned down all the way to like mid chest. It was always a spectacle to see, and I hate that I can't remember it because it's gonna come to me later.
It'll come later, yeah. But like, he was there for Tiger's longest stretch until the scandal happened, and that's when they kind of split. But there was one of those things where the player is the focus, yeah, but the caddy is the man behind the player. So you see these interactions with these caddies where it's mainly they're being just, I don't want to say cheerleaders, but they are mainly just they're a good support system, right? They're acting like a really strong morale anchor for these players because they're keeping the players out of their own head. Because these men know how to play the game, and professional women also, like these professional golfers, men and women, know the game. They've been playing it most of their lives, if not their entire lives. They know this game in and out.
it's the mind is the killer when it comes to golf. It is.
That's a differentiator, huh?
That is what separates a good professional golfer or good golfer from a great golfer. It's all mental.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone can practice the same way and do everything, but whoever has a stronger mental game, that's what sets the edge. And like we were talking about Tiger earlier and his impact on the game. Tiger made golf a sport. I say he's the one who made golf a sport. He turned it from, like I said, that boys club party scene to
more mainstream.
Holy crap, if we want to keep up with this kid, we're going to have to start working our butts off, because Tiger was relentless. He really was like a tiger on the prowl on those courses. I mean, I'm fairly certain he played with torn ligaments when he won a U.S. Open. I want to say he damaged his knee and played on a bad knee to win at Torrey Pines, I believe. Could be Pebble. It's one of those two. But it's one of those things where you see the mental strength of a golfer really kick in on those final rounds, because it separates them from the rest of the pack. So Scotty was like a friggin'
laser beam, huh?
Absolutely killer focus. Never even flinched. And he took bogeys in his final 9, but he just never even flinched, just kept going forward.
And what's his full name? Because I don't know.
Scotty Scheffler.
Okay, and how long has he been on the tour?
So,
or how old is he about?
He's 27, I believe. And this is his second Masters win.
Oh, I didn't know
He
that.
won 2 years ago. Like, he was the one who put the jacket on Rahm, who won last year, and Rahm had to put it back on him. So it was something fun.
Wow. He put the jacket on Rahm?
He had to. So the previous winner of the Masters
is the one
who puts the jacket on the new winner.
Okay.
I don't know how it worked when I know if you go back to back,
how
the person who put it on you before has to put it back on you.
Oh wow.
So they have to put it right back on you.
That's funny.
So there's been a few back and forths, and it's been really cool just to see players that have competed against each other have to put it back on. Like watching Phil have to put it on Tiger and Tiger put it on Phil was fun.
Oh wow. Yeah.
It was really fun to watch. But yeah, no, he was like a laser beam. And then you saw a lot more going on in the second place race. So you had I want to say Swedish, Ardbeg. It was Arberg.
Okay.
But he had a little symbol above his name.
Oh, I saw that. The little circle?
And it changed the way his name is enunciated. But
okay.
It was one of those things. But seeing him and 2-time major winner Colin Morikawa go at it was something to behold, because you have a guy who has all the experience in the world still at a young age, and then you see a guy in his first Masters appearance, and they're just going back and forth at each other. And then Max Homa, another longtime PGA member or PGA Tour member player, right in the hunt, and just watching the course change on them was something made it interesting. And then 4th and 5th kind of just dropped back a little bit. It was really a 4-person race going into the back 9, and then it just kind of separated himself.
Yeah.
Scheffler's experience with the Masters and with Augusta really shined. He knew the course would come to him. He just had to keep playing his game, and that's the advantage of being the leader. You don't have to change your game. And like Scotty could play comfortably, or as comfortable as you can be on a major stage, but
that's got to be the most nerve-wracking.
Oh God, I couldn't imagine. I remember my first time playing in a state tournament. I was a freshman in high school, and I felt like I was going to puke on the first tee. It was the biggest tournament I've ever played in. Oh man, I was a mess of nerves until like the 5th hole when I settled back down. But it was just one of those things. It was just, like I said, that mental game. I was out of it, and then I didn't step back until I was in a situation where I knew. But it's just it's something to watch. Like if you know the game and you're watching these players, there's a whole other aspect that you pay attention to that some people can't see. And like most people just watch the rounds as they go and see players changing. They don't see the slight adjustments that the player will have to make or how they have to change their game. Like you see players going from hitting safe shots to having to be super aggressive or pin seek to try and keep up score. So it's just something to observe and watch how the game changes.
Yeah. And to change a little topic, I remember, I think it was on Saturday, there was one golfer who, I think he birdied on one hole, and it was from like a longer chip shot. Did you see that? Mm-hmm. Man, that was amazing, you know? And it reminds me of that one campaign that the PGA used to have years ago The tagline was, "These guys are good," and that really is as simple as of a tagline as that was. It just made sense. I mean, seeing some of these shots, especially like maybe that doesn't like really resonate with people who haven't golfed or don't golf, but anyone who's ever tried, I mean, it's a very difficult, challenging game.
It is a taxing game. Maybe not as physically as other sports, but mentally, golf will wear you down.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if you're having these high shot rounds in big moments, because you're not only are you having to physically hit more shots, you're having to mentally think about more, and you're trying to figure out how you're going to claw your way back out if you're slipping.
Yeah.
Like I'm fairly certain once you make the cut and you realize you're slipping out of it, like if you're look at Tiger, look what happened to him this year.
Yeah, what happened with him?
It's just
he made the cut, right?
He made the cut, made his 24th Masters cut, set a record, and he's a solo holder for this record. He was tied for the longest time, but at 23. But watching him just physically slip.
Oh man.
It personally, I thought he was still hurt. Like it looked like he was still grimacing, and he was lacking that really big kick that you like 2019 Tiger, and looking at him and 5 years later at this guy, completely separate player. And given he had a major accident in that time span, so it can change a lot of things, but just seeing the difference in his general body language, it was night and day comparing the two. And then once you slip out of it, you just kind of coast, and because you're out of it, there's nothing more you can really do. I mean, once you're 10 shots off and there's only 9 holes to go, you're hoping for miracles, or else you're just kind of pulling back, coasting, and trying to just finish and get through.
Yeah,
because it's just a losing battle at that point.
Is there speculation that this will be his last year, or is that retirements?
I've heard that for years.
Oh, okay.
But honestly, I don't think it will be his last hurrah. I doubt he'd ever want to go out on that. He was a competitor from the jump.
Yeah.
I can't imagine this is what does it for him. Mm-hmm. I would be heartbroken personally if that's how it ended, because this was somebody I watched playing my entire life.
So in your estimation, who's the greatest of all time? Would it be I guess Tiger's up there in the discussion?
So
Jack?
It's a debate between Jack and Tiger.
Okay.
Jack has more majors. Tiger has more wins. Mm. Tiger took Sam Snead's record for the most tournament wins, but still trails Jack.
By how much? Is it a lot?
I think it's like 2 or 3 majors.
Oh, man.
Because Jack has 18 and Tiger, I want to say, is at 14 or 15.
Okay.
So he's close, but like he was close years ago. 2019 was what made the comeback look like it was going to happen, because we saw him win Augusta fairly comfortably and surging like we used to see Tiger do. But it was one of those things where it really got back into the question: is this it? Is this what we're gonna witness him fully claim it? Personally speaking, I think Tiger is the greatest of all time.
Okay.
That may be contradictory to a lot of people because Jack has the most majors, and Jack still holds that aura around him where he was the legend. He still is. But if it wasn't Tiger, it'd be Jack. And if it wasn't Jack, it'd be Tiger. Mm-hmm. They've kind of put themselves on a pedestal so far away from everyone else that it's really hard to get anyone else up there.
Right. It's got to be one of those two.
It's a 2-horse race.
Okay.
But personally, I think Tiger. Tiger changed the game in a way that hadn't been seen for a long time. And he holds the most tournament wins. Now, a lot of people say that doesn't matter because the majors are where you shine. You got to win the majors. But I think 4 short of majors, but having more tournament wins kind of shines a little more.
Yeah. Because
you can be a phenomenal majors player, but terrible on regular tour. Like you shine at these huge moments, but
that to me is weird.
Yeah, it's
why should that
super
translate?
Weird. Some people focus completely on majors.
Oh, okay.
I'm not trying to bash him, but like Brooks Koepka, amazing major player. Like he was showing lights out on majors. He was winning regular tournaments, but when it came to the majors for a few years there, it was Brooks was the man to beat in majors because he was just was like he found another gear and he just always kept going further with it. And he was just dominant in majors, but he still won tournaments, but he didn't translate that dominance that he had in majors to standard tournament. And then like for a while there, it looked like we were going to see a few people possibly rise to the occasion. But when it comes to chasing major victories, Brooks was probably the closest we've seen just actually hunting it. There's people like Phil Mickelson who have been longtime players who have won multiple majors, but Phil lacks the U.S. Open. He has never won a U.S. Open to finish the career Grand Slam.
Oh man!
And so that's like his always his
That's his white whale, huh?
Yep, that's it. He's always hunting it, and I don't know if we'll ever see it.
Have we seen players win all the majors? Okay.
So a Grand Slam is winning all 4 in the same year.
Okay.
I don't know if one has done it. If they have, it's only like one person. It's probably Jack. There's the Tiger Slam, which is winning 3, and then the other one in the next year.
Oh, nice.
Like if you win, it's 3 in a row, and then winning the one you didn't in the next year. So if you didn't, I want to say it was Tiger didn't win the Masters, but won the Open, the U.S., the PGA, and then won the Masters the next year, and it was called the Tiger Slam.
Oh, that's funny.
There's the career Grand Slam where it's just winning
all 4
just
throughout
majors.
And I'm sure there have been multiple.
Oh yeah, multiple people have won it, but I want to say.
But it spanned like their whole career.
Yeah. It's a very short list though. Like it's not all that common to see somebody win all 4 majors. I know Rory is still chasing his. He needs the Masters.
Oh wow.
Phil needs his at the U.S. Open. I don't know about Brooks. I want to say he's won the U.S. Open multiple times, and then PGA, and I think he has an Open title. But things like that, they're still chasing the one.
Yeah.
And then it's just something fun to keep track of. Like every year watching the U.S. Open, I was like, oh crap, this is Phil's year. I feel like he could do it. Like when he won the Masters, or when he won the PGA Championship a few years ago, I was like, this could be it. We could see the jump, and then he was in the hunt for a while, and then just something slipped.
Yeah.
But it's just something fun to keep track of it, because it's not as in depth as some statistics in modern day sports are, but it's still pretty cool.
Oh yeah. And how did Rory do this year?
Rory fell pretty bad this year.
Oh man.
He just didn't. He wasn't near as close as he was. I think last year he was second. I thought last year was going to be, but Rahm was just so good.
Yeah. Well, it's a fun sport and definitely one for cigar smokers. I mean, one of the few sports you can smoke a cigar while playing it.
Absolutely.
If you wanted to. It might adversely affect your game or maybe enhance it.
I want to say it's Angel Jimenez. Smokes a cigar.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Every round, like watching Jimenez.
Yeah, the Spaniard lisp.
Watching him, it was a while ago, but watching him at the Masters, he was in the hunt. Man was smoking long old cigars the whole time he was playing. Was just absolutely having a ball.
And then the black sheep of them all, but he smoked his cigarettes.
John Daly.
Yeah, John Daly. Yeah. There could be a whole show just of him.
Single greatest talent in golf that I've ever thought of. I think if John Daly practiced, oh my Lord, we would have seen something special, because the man had God-given talent like no other. Now, I'm not trying to belittle John Daly at all.
Right.
No, man's a legend. He's also a folk hero, at least in my mind.
Yeah.
The mythos of John Daly is something to behold. Yeah. Showing up, slamming a beer, smoking half a pack of cigs and a Diet Coke, and just teeing off, and then winning the PGA Championship was awesome.
Oh, man.
No, it's just, there's so many great characters in golf. It's just something, there's something about the game that's just special.
Yeah. And then I just learned this year about the the pimento cheese sandwich at the Masters. What is that about?
The pimento cheese sandwich.
I didn't even know about that.
I want to say it's a Georgia thing, but the Masters has a very small. It's actually one of the cool things about the tournament for the spectators. Prices are so low on the food.
Yeah, I just heard about that.
They make most of their money on merchandise and just ticket sales. Actually, tickets are. I think if you win if you win the lottery for the tickets, it's all set price. But like they're.
Do you know how much we're talking about? $500.
I'm not. $100. I want to say it's cheaper than $5. It's probably closer to $100, maybe, depending on how many days you get.
Okay.
Because you put in for X amount of days, but definitely when you're thinking about it, it's I got caught up talking. I let my cigar go out.
No, I know it happens all the time. In fact, you're not a real guest if you don't let your cigar go out. But while you're doing that, I'm looking up How much are Masters tickets?
You're gonna get a secondary.
Let's see. Tickets for 2024 were $100 for the practice rounds and $140 for tournament rounds. So that's per day?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
But
so if you wanted like 3 days, it's
it's
like
a once in a lifetime event, though.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, for sure.
I say that unless you are incredibly lucky, and if you are, can I get you to pick some lottery ticket numbers for me?
Yeah, really.
So I can buy my Masters ticket secondary.
That's a tough ticket to get, huh? But no, that seems like a cool, like especially not just golf fan or enthusiast, but just any sporting aficionado. That's one of the tickets to get.
Oh yeah, no, hands down. I'd say if anyone has a chance, because it's an open lottery every year. Everybody put in.
You always put in. Huh?
I've been putting in for like 8 years now.
Yeah.
It's just I always put in, and I always wait to get my email saying we're sorry. But unfortunately, you have not been selected.
I wonder how many submissions they get a year.
Oh, that's got to be millions.
Yeah.
Because the crowds are over 100,000.
Whoa.
That course holds so many people. Surrounding Augusta, Georgia has to make a killing during just hotel, renting houses.
The cigar shops there.
The cigar shops there hopefully do incredibly well.
Yep. Yeah, there's one guy that me and Sam met at a Perdomo trip. His name was Rusty, I think. And I forget what shop he owns, but yeah, that was his time of year.
Oh yeah, no,
to make bank.
It's like us in Christmas.
Yeah.
We hope for December, they hope for April.
Right. Well, man, look, I got to cut it short because I know you're short on time too. We got to get you out of here. Would you oblige me on the lightning round that we have? It's called the Final Puff.
Okay.
Rapid fire round, 5 questions. Number 1: Crystal, Tabasco, or other?
Other.
Okay. Which do you have?
I like Slappy Mama. Their hot sauce. I really like it.
Okay.
It's more
never
viscous.
Had that. Okay.
Sticks to things better.
And you being from New Mexico, the green hatch chili?
Hatch green chili.
Oh, hatch. Okay. Yeah.
Fight me, Colorado. New Mexico is the green chili capital of the world.
Nice.
I'll fight you.
Yeah. Nice. All right. Number 2. Who would you want to smoke a cigar with, dead or alive? Like, who's the number 1 person you want to smoke a cigar with?
My great grandfather.
Okay.
Yep.
Very cool. Let's see. Number 3. I'm probably gonna get this out of order. Favorite vacation destination?
Ooh. Isn't it? Augusta, Georgia, during the Masters.
Oh, nice. Hint.
Hint.
Help
Somebody help a brother out.
Yeah. Let's see. Number 4. Your desert island cigar.
Ooh. Davidoff Oro Blanco.
Okay.
Just because I'll never be able to smoke one otherwise.
That'd be a good desert island cigar. And last one. Who would you want to see here on a future podcast?
Ooh.
Anyone.
There's a There's a few. Talking sports, there's a customer that's been with Habana Port for a long time. He's my absolute favorite dude to cut it up with sports. I would love to see Felix on here.
Oh yeah,
just absolutely cutting it up about sports because that man has some like sixth sense to some of these things that happened. I remember we were talking up. It was Max Johnson, Nussmeier, and Miles Brennan. We were talking about who was going to get it, and he said Miles wasn't it. I said Miles was it. Miles wasn't it. Then it was Nussmeier and Jaden Daniels. Felix called Jaden Daniels. Wow. Yeah, he not called him, but he straight up said that man is going to be something special. And I ate my crow that season. I said he was going to be good. I didn't think he was going to be that good. Yeah. I was wrong. Yeah. I was so wrong.
So Felix Fields, come on up.
I would love to see him just absolutely cut it up with sports because that man has like an innate knowledge and it's just awesome to watch. And he can really talk. Yeah. If he doesn't fall asleep and end up smoking in his sleep.
Yeah.
Another cool thing.
Yeah, we've invited him, so he's expressed interest. So maybe that'll happen. So with that, buddy, appreciate you coming on. I really appreciate your time. So
thank you for having me.
All right, buddy, and everyone, take care. We'll see you next time.